Because it seems to me too that that is a bit of a detriment, so I don't know who would explain to me.
Talking about Fort?
Yeah, by Brady there.
Ooh.
I'd like the chief.
Perhaps you'll allow me to have Gary come in and provide some background on that.
Yeah, I thought that was an MOT requirement, but.
Your Worship, Councillor, Gary Foley, Principal of Interface. As a developer, access we can get to existing streets and roads. Fourth has, MOT has told us day one, we can't touch Fourth at this point in time. There is an uncontrolled intersection right at the corner of the property to the adjacent user, the auto dealer, and that is an extremely dangerous intersection. If the people come into our development, it would be dangerous from day one. We agreed not to use it other than for delivery trucks until such time as MOT chooses to take that on as a result. And in the agreement, we've agreed within a time period to contribute money to its upgrade if we can use it. But at this point in time, I agree with MOT that it would be too dangerous to design to use that road anyway until such time as that section of the highway is rationalized. So we've withdrawn that aspect of our design. And until is comfortable with that, I don't see a solution to it until this council or MOT chooses to challenge the validity of that intersection.
So would you say that you would see people using that frontage road down that far and just driving into your parking lot, I guess? That would be the end of it, would it? The parking lot, would that be what's right there?
Well, no, if we were able to that intersection, we'd flow it into the property. The present condition, though, is that there's an uncontrolled intersection without any left-hand turn lanes or any magazines. Knowing the public the way I do, they're going to take the fastest route to our project. So in Salmon Army coming on the highway would try to make a turn in there. And it would create a very dangerous situation day one because it's not properly designed. We further down the road are designing a proper intersection to enter and exit the property. And MOT has told us clearly that we can't use Fourth this time because of that uncontrolled intersection. Because it would create a dangerous situation day one.
Have you spoken with Brady Motors?
No, I haven't approached them, to be honest.
I can see the safety issue, but I'm just trying to envisage it, a year down the road as to what it'll actually.
It would be dangerous relative to people trying to enter and exit from there without the proper, because there's no stack up to come into our property, and so
I can see
you
that.
can see people going in and out. And so our traffic engineers agreed that in its present circumstance, it wasn't usable. We as a developer, as the owner of this property then would want to see access there if it was available.
Thank you.
You officers for delivery trucks and not a sedan. I mean, you have a gate.
We'll design it to the satisfaction of MOT to prove that it's just for trucks alone.
Right, but if I'm driving along, I have to decide to ignore that. What's to stop me from going in that way anyway?
Well, that's a good question, and we'll be designing it to allow only delivery trucks to essentially exit that way. We'll do that to the satisfaction of MOT because they're the ones that will make sure that it's not used by the public.
Okay. Yeah.
Great, thanks for the information for me. So Gary, on your build out on lot 7, are you planning on a frontage road running along parallel to the highway at some time?
The way we've designed the property, when we first got involved in this property, we stepped back and took a look at what had been done to date. And agree with the philosophy of going through the middle of the property, nor did we agree with the idea that should turn it back on Piccadilly. So we redesigned this in close working relationship with staff. So I think it's been very productive. We've had a good working dialogue. And we redirected our efforts to MOT to say the 20th was the appropriate spot. to the left-out turn problem that exists on 10th Avenue, and that it would complement development within Salmon Arm, and that we could also look at the light and also service the badlands. We have sat with Piccadilly to see whether we could provide joint access between the properties from the light and through their properties, so that we're directly addressing that, so that people can go from 10th Street across the site all the way over to 25th Lane and back, either by 10th Avenue or through the property. So we are trying to design a road network system that would support movement parallel.
Okay, okay, let me ask the question another way. Are there any buildings that are in the way if we want to put a frontage road there?
We're opening this to come through 4th onto the property. At that point, you have to come deeper into the ground, because when we have an access from the highway, they'll require a significant stacking lane in, is directly 90 degrees to the highway. So we'll design that, and then, yes, there will be a road that loops over to 4th. It could loop over to 4th in the future.
Right. Okay, and so when the signalized intersection is placed halfway between Brady's and, say, Canadian Tire along that lot, how will that access your development if the back of your development is facing the highway?
No, with the midpoint light, we're envisioning halfway between the 20th and the 10th Street lights. That's
Right.
our study is an acceptable standard. It's 500 meters, which is a further distance than the majority light design on.
Right, no, I understand that.
So the access would come into the property to a depth according to MOT design. And then we flow across this, what's left of 17th to connect through there. And we'll also flow across, and we've been in active negotiation with Piccadilly to see whether they'd be interested in a cross-access agreement that would allow the benefit of the light to go to their property and vice versa. 4th right now, we've left a roadway coming through that would accommodate access through that road in the future.
Okay, so just one more question, Your Worship. So in talking to the Ministry of Transportation then, the reason for them not wanting Fourth to continue to the frontage road is that access at Brady's off the highway?
There's two uncontrolled
Yes.
intersections in a very short distance.
So why don't they just close them? They do everywhere else.
You'd have to ask MOT that, because the fact is, when existing owners have the right of an existing access, it's extremely difficult to take it away unless they apply for something. So at this point in time, it's certainly outside our control, other than to say when we studied it, we read MOT had a legitimate issue, and that we decided we would design away from that, because until those intersections close, the use of that road would be dangerous.
Right, and that's probably an unfair question for me to ask you. I should be asking Minister of Transportation, but it seems Precision is driving what I think is not a very good traffic point. Okay, thank you very much.
I have questions for you. One was, it sounds like you probably liked the idea of having that 4th Street frontage road if MOT would have read. Is that what I'm hearing, or?
As a developer of retail, we'd like every access we can get. So the 4th would be a luxury to have that.
And the other thing is, if MOT perhaps changes their mind, will you have money set aside to be able to develop a frontage road there?
We've addressed that in the document, actually. We've committed funds to that, for a 5-year window to that happen.
Councillor Itzan?
Yeah, Councillor Robertson asked mainly the questions that I was going to ask, that with regards to that 4th Street access, you weren't planning, or 4th Street, you weren't planning on plunking a building there that would physically make it impossible to put a road through there without tearing down the building. You seem to have ruled out that if you can gain the road access, there's not going to be anything on your site that you intend to develop that would obstruct that at some point in the future, assuming MOT its ducks in a row.
Yes, that's correct. We would not place a building in front of that access point.
Yeah, and but of course what that says is, to me, is that element within the actual agreement before us is an issue for this agreement. That's an issue for the city